I plunged the syringe into my brother's chest, not with a doctor's precision, but with the raw fury of a man who'd been buried alive in his own life, watching the plunger depress as his heart stuttered like an engine on its last gasp. The room reeking of bleach and betrayal. They said I was a failure, a dropout who couldn't hack the cutthroat world of med school. But right then, with his eyes rolling back and the monitors screaming, I was the god they never prayed to. And as the epinephrine flooded his veins, stolen from the very hospital that spat me out, I whispered the truth I'd hidden for a decade. This is for you. 2. You son of a bitch, whoever's watching. The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets overhead as I sat in the waiting room of Mercy General. The kind of place in suburban Chicago where dreams go to flatline. It was a Tuesday night in late summer. The air thick with that Midwestern humidity that clings to your skin like regret. I'd been scrolling through my phone, half-heartedly checking job listings for another dead-end gig, maybe bartending again, or driving for Uber. Anything to keep the lights on in my shitty one-bedroom in Pilsen, when the call came. Not from my brother, Tommy, but from the ER desk. Voice clipped and professional. Mr. Harlan, your brother's coding. You listed as emergency contact. Tommy. My little brother. The golden boy. The one who'd skated through life on charm and connections while I drowned in debt and disappointment. We'd grown up in a split-level ranch house on the outskirts of Naperville. Dad a union pipefitter who drank his paycheck at the VFW. Mom a part-time dental hygienist who dreamed of Paris but settled for PDA bake sales. Tommy was the athlete, the prom king, the kid who got into Northwestern on a partial ride for business. Me? I was the smart one, the one who buried himself in books, aced the MCAT, and clawed my way into Rush Medical College on loans that still haunted my credit score like ghosts. But that was before the fall. Before the night that turned me from prodigy to punchline. I bolted from the vinyl chair, heart slamming against my ribs, dodging a janitor mopping up what looked like vomit near the vending machines. The ER was a war zone, gurneys rattling past, nurses barking orders in that efficient Midwestern twang, a kid wailing in his mom's arms while some guy in a John Deere cap clutched a bloody towel to his forehead. I shoved through the double doors marked, authorized personnel only, ignoring the protests. Because fuck protocol, Tommy was all I had left. They had him in bay for a curtained cubicle that smelled like antiseptic and fierce sweat. Dr.
Elena Vasquez.
The attending was there, mid-40s, sharp bob haircut. The kind of doc who looked like she could bench press a crash cart. She glanced up from the defibrillator pads she was slapping onto his bare chest. Her dark eyes assessing me in a split second. Threat or kin? Family, she snapped, not pausing as the monitor flatlined into that endless, soul-sucking tone. Brother, I gasped, elbowing past a tech who was fumbling within 4 lines. Tommy's face was ashen, lips blue-tinged. His Red Sox jersey, yeah. Even in Chicago, the bastard rooted for Boston, hiked up to expose the pale slab of his torso. At 28, he was still built like the high school quarterback he'd been. But now he looked small, fragile, like the kid who'd cry when Dad's belt came out. History, Vasquez barked, charging the paddles to 200 joules. A family history of heart issues? Dad had a bypass at 55. Tommy's been stressed. Works in finance downtown. Long hours. Smokes like a chimney. Clear. She shocked him. His body arching like a bowstring snapped. The monitor blipped once. Twice. Then flatlined again. I grabbed the crash cart's edge. Knuckles white.
Tasting bile.
This couldn't be happening. Not Tommy. Not the one who'd made it out. Another shock. Nothing. Vasquez's jaw tightened.
AP. Now.
And get me the intubation kit. The nurse, a wiry kid named Raj, fumbled the syringe. Adrenaline ampoule slipping from his gloved fingers to roll across the linoleum. Time slowed, the room tilting as I watched it happen, the one thing that could bring him back. Inches away. Useless. And in that frozen heartbeat, something primal snapped inside me. The old instincts, the ones I'd buried under years of bar tabs and bounce checks, surged up like black tar. I lunged, snatching the syringe before it could vanish under the bed frame. My hands, steady from dissecting cadavers in gross anatomy, from stitching up lab rats in physiology, found the vein in Tommy's neck, the external jugular bulging like a road map.
No hesitation.
I plunged it in, depressing the plunger with a force that would make a surgeon wince, the drug hitting his system like a freight train. The monitor stuttered.
Beep.
Beep beep. Rhythm restored. Chaotic, but there. Vasquez's eyes widened, flicking from the screen to me, then to the syringe still clutched in my fist. "Who the hell are you?" she demanded. But there was a new note in her voice, respect laced with suspicion. "Jack Harlan," I said, wiping sweat from my brow with the back of my hand. "Failed pre-med." She didn't laugh. Instead, she nodded once, sharp, and turned back to her patient. "Stable for now. We'll move him to ICU. You, stay close. We might need that luck again." As they wheeled him out, tubes snaking from his arms like accusations, I sank onto the stool, the adrenaline crash hitting me like a hangover. Failed pre-med. That's what they'd called me after the scandal. The whispers in the hallways of Rush. The emails from profs who'd once sung my praises. Tommy's heart attack, brought on by stress. Yeah. But stress from what? From covering for me? From the secrets we'd both buried? I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over a number I hadn't called in years. The one belonging to her.
Sarah.
The woman who'd lit the match that burned my world down. Because if Tommy was paying for our past, it was time someone else started bleeding. That night, as Tommy stabilized in the ICU under the watchful eye of machines that beeped like judgmental metronomes, I slipped out of the hospital into the muggy Chicago dusk. The L train rattled overhead on the L tracks, sparks flying like fireworks for the damned. I walked the few blocks to my car, a beat-up '98 Civic with a bumper held on by duct tape, and drove west toward the suburbs, the city lights blurring in the rearview like tears I refused to shed. Naperville hadn't changed much. Still that cookie-cutter perfection, McMansions with 3-car garages, soccer moms in SUVs blasting Adele, dads grilling brats on decks that overlooked man-made ponds. But beneath the manicured lawns, the rot festered, just like in my family. I pulled up to the old house on Aspen Lane, the one Mom had sold after Dad's stroke, now rented out to some tech bro from Silicon Valley on sabbatical.
No.
That wasn't my destination. I turned left at the light, heading for the gated community where Sarah lived now.
Dr.
Sarah Klein, MD, cardiologist extraordinaire, the rising star at Northwestern Memorial who'd parlayed her charm and credentials into a corner office and a husband who managed hedge funds. The gate code hadn't changed our anniversary. 0714. Because she was born on the 4th and I'd proposed on the 7th. Pathetic. How some things stick like gum on your shoe. The guard waved me through without a second glance, I looked harmless enough in my jeans and hoodie, the kind of guy who blended into the woodwork. Her house was a colonial revival. White siding gleaming under landscape lights. A Tesla charging in the driveway next to a BMW X5. Kids' bikes on the lawn. A world's best mom mug visible through the kitchen window where she stood, laughing at something her husband said, wine glass in hand. Blonde hair piled in a messy bun. Yoga pants hugging curves I used to trace with my fingers. She looked happy. Fulfilled. The life she'd stolen from me, repackaged as her own. I killed the engine and sat there, engine ticking as it cooled, watching shadows play across the blinds. The syringe in my pocket, empty now, but I'd pocketed a spare from the ER crash cart on my way out, felt like a loaded gun. Revenge wasn't a lightning bolt, it was this, the slow simmer before the boil. My phone buzzed. A text from Vasquez. Your brother's asking for you. Room 312. And Harlan, we need to talk about that injection. I typed back, on my way. Tell him I'm the hero, for once. But as I started the car, peeling out of the cul-de-sac with tires chirping on fresh asphalt, I knew the truth. Heroes don't steal drugs from dying men. They don't plot to gut the woman who gutted them first.
No.
What I was brewing was darker, stickier, a revenge that would drag everyone down, Tommy included. Because the secret, the one that got me expelled, blackballed from every residency program east of the Mississippi, it wasn't mine. It was hers. And Tommy's. They'd framed me for the tampering, the falsified lab results that killed a patient in our third-year rotation. A simple error, they'd said, but I took the fall to protect them. Brother and lover, the two people I trusted most, selling me out for their futures.
Now,
with Tommy's heart on the line, the scales were tipping. And I'd make damn sure they crashed hard. Back at Mercy General, the ICU was a sterile purgatory, hushed voices over crackling intercoms. The constant whoosh of ventilators like mechanical breaths from the beyond. Tommy was propped up in bed, looking like a deflated version of himself, for pole towering over him like a judgmental scarecrow. Monitors graphing his every hiccup in green squiggles. He managed a weak grin when I walked in. The kind that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Same as when we'd sneak beers from Dad's fridge as teens. Jackie boy, he rasped, voice scraped raw from the tube they'd yanked hours ago. Heard you played, White Knight. Doc say you saved my ass. I pulled up a chair, the plastic creaking under me, and forced a chuckle. Yeah.
well,
Couldn't let you check out before paying me back that $500 you owe from the Bears game. He laughed, then winced, clutching his chest. Oh, you more than that.
man,
Way more.
his eyes,
Bloodshot and shadowed.
cerket mine,
There it was, the guilt, flickering like a bad signal. Tommy had always been the emotive one, wearing his heart on his sleeve while I internalized everything until it festered. Vasquez poked her head in then, chart in hand, her expression a mask of professional curiosity masking something sharper. Mr. Harlan. A word. She jerked her chin toward the hall, and I followed, leaving Tommy to fiddle with his remote. In the corridor, under the glare of overheads that made everyone look like zombies, she crossed her arms. That move in the ER? Ballsy. And illegal if you're not licensed. But effective. Where'd a failed pre-med learn to hit the jugular like that? I shrugged, leaning against the nurse's station where a coffee pot gurgled mournfully. Anatomy doesn't expire. Neither does muscle memory. She studied me, head tilted, like I was a puzzle with missing pieces. Elena Vasquez was the real deal, Puerto Rican roots. Raised in Humboldt Park, clawed her way through UIC Med on scholarships and spite. I'd heard the scuttlebutt from the ER staff. She didn't suffer fools, but she respected survivors. Look, Harlan, your brother's stable, but his troponins are through the roof. Possible STEMI. We're scheduling a cath in the morning. You sticking around? Where else would I go? I said, but my mind was already racing ahead to Sarah's house, to the confrontation I'd rehearsed 1,000 times in dive bars over cheap whiskey.
Good.
Family's important, she paused, then added, softer. Whatever happened at Rush, it doesn't define you here. If you need to talk, I'm good. I cut her off, sharper than intended. Talking was for therapists and talk shows, not for guys like me who fix problems with fists or forgotten skills. She nodded, unfazed, and handed me a visitor badge. Wear this. And Harlan, don't steal anything else. Her joke landed flat, but it lingered as I returned to Tommy's room. He was dozing now, morphine pulling him under like a riptide.
Betrayal.
Scrolling through old texts on my phone, conversations with Sarah from our med school days, full of heart emojis and can't wait to save the world together bullshit. We'd met in organic chem, her dissecting reactions with the precision of a scalpel, me geeking out over mechanisms. She was fire to my steady burn, the girl who made late-night study sessions feel like foreplay. Until the incident. Third year. Rotations at Cook County. We were on cards, cardiology. Tommy's future undoing in irony. A patient. Mrs. Elena Ramirez. 62. Hypertensive. In for a routine ablation. Sarah was lead resident. Cocky as hell. Overriding the attending's call on dosage. Too much lidocaine. A cascade failure. Arrhythmia.
Code.
Then flatline. Cover-up started small, a fudged chart entry. Backdated notes. But when the board started sniffing, Tommy, visiting that weekend, interning in admin, panicked. He was the one who'd found the tampered vial in my locker. Planted evidence pointing straight at me. I took the hit. Expulsion. No trial. Just a quiet exit with a gag order and a black mark that followed me like herpes. Sarah got a slap on the wrist. Tommy a glowing rec letter. They moved on, her to Northwestern. Him to a desk job crunching numbers for assholes who traded lives like stocks. Betrayal like that doesn't fade, it metastasizes. Around 2 a.m., Tommy stirred, eyes fluttering open. Jack. Remember that summer in Wisconsin? Cabin by the lake. I nodded, throat tight. We'd been kids, 12 and 8. Mom dropping us off while she worked doubles. Days of cannonballs and ghost stories. Nights of promising we'd always have each other's backs. You kept that promise, he murmured. Even after. Everything. Don't, I said, voice rough. Just rest. But he grabbed my wrist. Grip feeble but insistent. Sarah called. Worried. Said she'd visit tomorrow. The name hit like a sucker punch.
What? Yeah.
Figured you'd want to know. His eyes slid away. Guilty again. She's changed.
Man.
Married now.
Kids.
Let it go. Let it go. Like I was the one holding the grudge? I stood abruptly. Chair scraping. Get some sleep.
Tommy.
Kath's in a few hours. Outside. In the parking garage. The concrete echoed my footsteps like accusations. I lit a cigarette, hypocrite,
Yeah.
after lecturing him on smoking, and leaned against my Civic, exhaling smoke into the sodium-lit gloom. Sarah visiting. Of course she would. Play the concerned ex. Stir the pot just enough to remind me of my place. My phone buzzed again, not Vasquez, but an unknown number. Text. Heard about Tommy. Coming to see you both. We need to talk.
S.
Rage boiled up, hot and coppery. I crushed the cig under my heel and dialed her. The line ringing twice before her voice, smooth as ever, laced with that fake concern, answered. Jack?
God.
It's late. Save it, I growled. What game are you playing? Silence. Then a sigh. No game. Tommy's family. To both of us. I'll be there at 9. Bring your husband. Your perfect life. See if it fits in this hellhole.
Click.
I hung up, heart pounding. The revenge I'd fantasized, exposing her, dragging her down, felt childish now, dwarfed by Tommy's fragility. But as I slid into the driver's seat, key turning with a reluctant grind, I knew one thing: tomorrow, the masks would crack. And I'd be ready with the scalpel. Morning came too fast, the sun slicing through ICU blinds like Judgment Day. Tommy was prepped for the cath lab, gowned and groggy, cracking weak jokes about not betting on the Bears this season. Vasquez briefed us. Stent placement. Routine if his arteries cooperated. I nodded along, but my eyes kept drifting to the clock. 8:45. Sarah due any minute. She arrived at 8:52, sweeping in like she owned the place. White coat over scrubs. Stethoscope dangling like a medal. Hair perfect despite the hour. Behind her, a man in chinos and a polo mark. The husband, mid-40s, receding hairline. The bland assurance of old money. No kids, thank God for small mercies. Jack, she said, voice pitched low, eyes flicking over me, taking in the rumpled clothes, the stubble, the aura of a man who'd slept in a chair. You look tired. And you look like you stepped out of a catalog, I shot back, not bothering with pleasantries. Mark extended a hand, which I shook limply, his grip firm, lawyerly. Sarah's told me about you, he said, smile not reaching his eyes. Med school stories. Sounds intense. Intense. Understatement of the century. Tommy perked up from his bed, morphine haze lifting at the sight of her.
Sar.
You came. Wouldn't miss it. She leaned in, air kissing his cheek, then turned to me. Can we talk? Privately? Mark nodded, oblivious. I'll grab coffees. Be right back. In the hallway, away from prying ears, Sarah faced me, arms crossed, defensive, or mirroring me. I know you hate me,
Jack.
but this isn't about us. Tommy is dying because of stress you both caused, I hissed, voice low to avoid the security cam overhead. You think a stent fixes karma? Her face paled, but she held ground, chin lifting in that defiant way I'd once loved. I took the blame too. Remember? Community service. Probation. You weren't the only one who suffered. Bullshit. You got a fellowship. I got a record. She glanced away, toward the window overlooking the helipad where a chopper thrummed in the distance. I had to move on. We all did. For Tommy's sake. There it was, the hook in my gut. Always for Tommy. Before I could retort, alarms blared from Tommy's room. Vasquez's voice over the intercom. Code blue. Cath lab prep. Harlan family to waiting area. We ran. Sarah's clogs squeaking. My sneakers pounding. Mark met us there. Coffee's forgotten. Face ashen. What happened? Arrhythmia during prep, Vasquez explained. Bursting through doors.
Gown half on.
He's en route to lab now. Jack. I didn't wait. I followed, badge flapping, into the sterile antechamber where techs swarmed like bees. Through the glass, I saw them, Tommy on the table, paddles charging, his chest jerking with the shock. And, in that chaos, Sarah beside me, whispering, "We can't lose him." I felt it, the old pull, the betrayal's echo. But also the spark. This was my moment. The failed pre-med, back in the game. As they wheeled him away, I turned to her. You're right. We can't. But after, you're done. Her eyes met mine. Fear and fire. What does that mean? Means payback's a bitch with a medical degree. The cath lab waiting room was a limbo of faded magazines and faux-wood paneling, the kind of place where hope curdles into dread. Mark paced like a caged bull, phone glued to his ear, murmuring reassurances to someone back at the office, probably a client whose portfolio was tanking faster than Tommy's vitals. Sarah sat ramrod straight, picking at a cuticle, her cardiologist brain no doubt dissecting every possible complication. Dissection, embolism, perforation. Me? I slouched in a corner chair, nursing a vending machine coffee that tasted like battery acid, plotting. Payback. The word had slipped out, casual as a threat in a Tarantino flick, but it hung there now, heavy as the beeps from the hidden monitors. What did it even mean anymore? Expose her falsified credentials? Hack her hospital email? Leak the old cover-up docs I'd stashed on a thumb drive in my glove box? Or something darker, more visceral, like the syringe in my pocket, a reminder that I still knew where the veins hid. An hour ticked by. Then 2. Vasquez emerged at last, mask dangling from one ear, scrubs speckled with betadine. Stenson. Lad was 95% occluded, clogged like the Dan Ryan at rush hour. He's stable, but it'll be touch and go for 24 hours. Relief washed over Sarah's face, her hand fluttering to her chest, ironic, given her specialty. Mark clapped me on the back. Too hard, like we'd all bonded over near death. Tough kid. Your brother. Yeah, I muttered, shrugging him off.
Tough.
Vasquez pulled me aside again, her voice a low rumble. He's asking for you. And Harlan, that stunt yesterday. I ran your name. Rush expulsion. 2014. Tampering allegations. You sure you're not packing more heat than just quick hands? I met her gaze. Unflinching. Ancient history. I'm clean, she snorted. Not buying it. History has a way of resuscitating itself. Watch your step. Tommy looked better when I entered, color back in his cheeks, though the gown made him seem smaller. Swallowed by the bed. Jack, he said, beckoning weakly. Sit. I did. The chair closer this time. You scared the shit out of me.
Dumbass.
Join the club. He paused, eyes distant. Kath showed plaque buildup, years of bad habits. Stress didn't help. Stress from what? I pressed, though I knew. The job. Sure. But under that, the guilt. The what-ifs. He licked dry lips. The firm. They're auditing. Some irregularities in trades. Nothing major. But if it blows. White-collar bullshit, I said, waving it off. But my mind snagged. Irregularities. Sounded like Tommy. Always cutting corners. Same as in college when he'd borrow exam answers from the frat. Not just that. He glanced at the door. Ensuring solitude. It's you.
Man.
Seeing you struggle. After what we did. I can't sleep without dreaming of that night. The night. Cook County. Rain lashing the windows like judgment. Mrs. Ramirez coding on the table. Sarah's hands shaking as she barked orders too late. Tommy bursting in. White as a sheet. Fixing the evidence while I held the patient's hand. Whispering apologies to a ghost. You didn't do anything. I lied. Because what was one more lie between brothers? I chose to take the fall. Bullshit. His voice cracked. We chose for you. Sarah and me.
And now.
Karma's got a long memory. Before I could respond, the door swung open. Sarah. Alone. Mark probably schmoozing nurses for intel. She hovered in the threshold. White coat a shield. Can I Tommy nodded. And she entered, perching on the bed's edge like a bird ready to flee. You were incredible in there, she told him. Voice honeyed. Fought like a champ. Thanks. Document. He grinned.
Boyish.
And for a second, it was med school all over again, us three. Unbreakable. But I broke it. Speaking of docs, Vasquez mentioned my file. Old news making rounds. Sarah's smile faltered. I didn't save it. Just wondering if your husband's in on the full story. Or does he think I'm just the ex who couldn't hack it? Mark chose that moment to lumber in, bearing styrofoam cups. Full story of what? You guys bonding over war tales. Jack's being dramatic, Sarah said smoothly, standing to take a coffee. Med school's hell. We all have scars. Mark chuckled. Oblivious. Sounds like my MBA days. All-nighters and ethical gray areas. Ethical gray areas. The phrase landed like a grenade. I stood, chair scraping.
Yeah.
Like falsifying trades. Or lab results. Tommy's eyes widened. Sarah froze. Cup midway to her lips. Mark blinked. Confused. What? Nothing, Sarah snapped. Color draining. Jack.
Not now.
Now's perfect, I said. Voice low thunder. Tommy's alive because of me. Time to balance the books. I stormed out, pulse roaring, leaving them in stunned silence. The hallway blurred, nurses glancing curiously. A janitor pushing a mop like Sisyphus. Outside, in the employee lot, I popped the glove box. Thumb drive glinting like fool's gold. Years ago, I'd copied the files, emails, timestamps. The vile log showing Sarah's initials overwritten with mine. Enough to torch her career. Maybe Tommy's too, if the audit tied back. But as I pocketed it, doubt crept in. Revenge was clean in my head, her in ruins. Me vindicated. But Tommy's eyes. Pleading? That complicated shit. My phone rang, unknown. I answered, expecting a bill collector. Instead, a gravelly voice. Harlan? It's Dr. Klein's husband. We need to meet. Alone. Mark sounded off, colder, edged with something predatory.
Why?
Because your little thread in there, it's got teeth. And I bite back.
Click.
Threat? From Wall Street, Ken? I laughed. Bitter, but uneasy nod. Who the hell was this guy? Really? I drove aimlessly, weaving through afternoon traffic on I-90, the lake shimmering mockingly to my left. Pulled over at a dive called the Rusty Anchor in Bridgeport, greasy spoon by day, bar by night, ordered a Jameson neat. The bartender, a grizzled vet with tattoos fading into liver spots, slid it over without a word. As I nursed the burn, memories flooded, Sarah and me, post-rotation hookups in call rooms, whispering futures over cold pizza. Tommy tagging along, the third wheel who became the wedge. How he'd confessed one drunk night. Pre-scandal. I love her too.
Jack. Like.
For real. I'd punched him then. Brotherly. Laughing it off. But the seed was planted. Phone buzzed. Vasquez.
Tommy's resting.
You okay? Peachy. I texted. Just tying up loose ends. Her reply. Loose ends have a way of strangling you. Come back soon. I downed the shot. Signaled for another. Loose ends.
Yeah.
Like meeting Mark. He texted coordinates. A park in Oak Park.
6 p.m.
Neutral ground. Frank Lloyd Wright haunts and all. I arrived early, parking under ancient oaks that dripped Spanish moss like nooses. Mark was there, on a bench by a pond. Feed bag in hand for the ducks, surreal. The hedge funder communing with wildlife. Harlan, he said. Not rising. Tossing crumbs. Ducks quacked greedily.
Seat.
I did. Warily. Up close. He wasn't bland, eyes sharp. Like a hawk in khakis. What's this about? You. He turned. Smile wolfish. Sarah's mentioned the
history.
But I dug deeper. Rush board minutes. Sealed records. You took a fall for her. Noble. Stupid. Get to the point. He leaned in, voice dropping. The point is leverage. Tommy's audit? It's bigger than irregularities. Embezzlement.
Milio.
He's looking at federal time if it breaks. My gut twisted.
Tommy?
Embezzling? No way. Sarah knows. I whispered. Mark laughed.
Low.
Sarah's clean. But her connection to him, ex-lover's brother? It'd drag her down. Unless what? You walk away. No leaks. No revenge. Or I make sure that thumb drive of yours sees daylight, along with Tommy's ledgers. Blackmail. From the husband. The plot thickened. Greasy as bar nuts. You're bluffing, I said.
Standing.
You don't have shit. Try me. He held up his phone. Screen glowing. A screenshot of my old expulsion notice.
Timestamp today.
I have friends in low places. Walk.
Jack.
Or we all burn. I walked. All right, back to my car. Fists clenched on the wheel. But not away. Toward the inferno. That night, back at the hospital, Tommy slept soundly. Monitors steady. Sarah had gone home. Mark in tow. Their perfect facade intact. I slipped into an empty on-call room. Laptop borrowed from a sympathetic nurse, perks of looking pitiful. And uploaded the files to a burner email. Drafted the send to the Illinois Medical Board. CC, Chicago Tribune. Hovering over send, Tommy's face flashed pale. Pleading. Brother.
Blood. Delete. Not yet.
But Mark's threat echoed. Embezzlement? I needed proof. Time to dig. Dawn broke over Chicago like a hangover, gray skies threatening rain. The windy city earning its name with gusts whipping Lake Michigan into froth. I hadn't slept, crashing on a waiting room couch that smelled like Lysol and despair. Dreams fragmented with scalpels and spreadsheets. Tommy's chart, pilfered from the nurse's station, guilt's a small price for truth. Confirmed the basics, stent holding, ejection fraction improved, discharge possible in days. But the stress echo? Off the charts. Whatever demons chased him, they were cardiac kryptonite. Vasquez found me at 7 a.m. Coffee in hand, real stuff. From the doc's lounge. You look like hammered shit, she observed, handing it over. Rough night. Family reunions, I muttered, sipping the bitter salvation. Always a blast. She sat, uninvited but welcome, her presence an anchor in the storm. Talk to me, Harlan. Off record. What's eating you? I hesitated. Elena was sharp. She'd see through bullshit. Old wounds reopening. Betrayal. Secrets. The usual soap opera crap. She nodded, unsurprised. Med school's a pressure cooker. Cracks people. I saw it in residency, folks folding under the weight, covering tracks. Her eyes narrowed. Like what happened to you? Water under the bridge.
Lie.
It was a moat around my heart.
Bull.
I pulled strings. Got the unredacted report. Not tampering, dosage error. Pinned on you to protect the real culprit. A resident. And your brother. He was involved. I choked on the coffee. How? Admin intern that year. Signed off on the evidence chain. She leaned in, voice fierce. You got screwed.
Jack.
Royally. Why'd you cover? For love. For loyalty. Stupid reasons. Doesn't matter. It's done. Not if it's killing your brother. She stood, tossing her cup. Help me help him. Stress test consult, unofficial. You shadow. Give input. Payback for the save. I agreed. Because why not? The universe owed me favors. The consult was in a sublevel gym. Tommy on a treadmill under ECG leads. Vasquez monitoring vitals while I lurked in scrubs swiped from laundry. He pushed through, sweat beading, but at peak. His rhythm fractured, PVCs dancing like drunk sailors. Enough, Vasquez called, easing him down. Alone later, Tommy confessed, panting. It's the job.
Jack.
Pressure to perform. Clients demanding returns that don't exist. Embezzlement. Mark's word echoed. How deep? Deep enough to drown. He met my eyes. Defeated. Started small, cooking books for bonuses. Now, offshore accounts. Fake trades. If the SEC sniffs, who else knows? Sarah guessed.
Mark.
He's circling, using it for leverage on her. Wants her to push for a partnership. Look the other way on some shady consults.
Mark.
The bland husband, playing puppet master. Pieces clicked, his threat yesterday. The screenshot. He wasn't protecting Sarah, he was weaponizing the past to control the present. After rounds, I ditched the hospital for pills and my neighborhood's murals, and to carry us a balm against the sterile white. Holed up in my apartment, a walk-up with peeling wallpaper and a view of the viaduct, I fired up my ancient desktop. VPN engaged. And dove into the digital deep end. Tommy's firm, Apex Capital, Loop High-Rise, portfolio of tech startups and real estate flips. Public records first, SEC filings, clean on surface. Then darker waters, dark web forums, whistleblower leaks. Jackpot, a thread on a finance sub, anonymous poster alleging ghost trades at Apex. Funds siphoned to Cayman shells. Timestamp, 2 weeks ago. Tommy's alias? Subtle. But there, QB28, his old jersey number. Deeper, IP traces, shout out to a hacker buddy from community college bartending days. Led to a VPN in Oak Brook, Mark's neck of the woods. Son of a bitch. He wasn't just aware, he was complicit, maybe steering the ship. Phone rang mid-search, Sarah. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice pleading, Jack.
Please.
Meet me. Coffee shop on Michigan Avenue.
Noon.
No Mark. Just us. Trap? Or olive branch? I went. Because curiosity's a cruel mistress. The shop was a hipster haven, exposed brick.
Pour un verre?
Baristas with sleeved hats and man buns. Sarah waited in a corner booth. No white coat. Just jeans and a sweater that hugged her like memory. She looked smaller without the armor. Shadows under her eyes betraying sleepless nights. You came, she said, pushing a latte my way, oat milk. Extra shot. Just how I liked. Don't get used to it.
You said. Wary.
What's the play? Honesty. She stirred her own cup. Spoon clinking like chains. Mark's out of control. The audit. He's using Tommy's mess to force my hand. Consults for his clients. Off books.
No oversight.
If I refuse, he leaks everything. The incident. Us.
Us.
The word stung. And I'm done covering. For him. For the past. Her eyes. Blue as Lake Michigan on a clear day. Locked on mine. Help me bury him. Expose the embezzlement. The threats. In return. I go to the board. Clear your name. Alliance? With the betrayer? My gut rebelled. But logic whispered, divide and conquer. Mark was the snakehead. Cut it off. The body flops. Why me? I asked. Because you know medicine. And revenge. She smiled.
Sad.
We were good once.
Jack.
Could be again, not together.
But.
Right. I didn't buy the nostalgia. But the offer?
Gold.
Proof first. On Mark. She slid a USB across the table, bank statements. Emails. Start here. But careful. He's paranoid. Has eyes everywhere. I pocketed it.
Standing.
This changes nothing between us. Everything, she whispered as I left. Or nothing. Your call. Rain started as I hit the street. Fat drops smacking pavement like applause for the damned. Back home. USB decrypted, ledgers showing Mark's signatures on the ghost trades. Laundered through Sarah's consult fees, kickbacks disguised as medical evals for Apex execs. Twist. One file. Buried deep, a photo.
Me.
Sarah.
Tommy.
Arms linked at graduation. Caption. The unbreakable trio. Scrawled note. Leverage if needed. Mark had the dirt on all of us. The game just leveled up. Evening brought confrontation. I texted Mark. Park.
Now.
Bring your A-game. He arrived cocky, umbrella furled like a sword. Changed your mind. I tossed the USB at his feet. Game over. Feds get this tomorrow. He stooped, plugged into his phone, face paling as numbers scrolled. Where? Sarah. She's singing like a canary. Liar. But doubt cracked his voice. She wouldn't. She did. Bluff. But it landed. Walk away from her. From Tommy. Or we all go down. He laughed. Manic. You think you're the Avenger? You're the fall guy. Always. He lunged, fist connecting with my jaw, amateur swing. But it rang my bell. I countered. Knee to gut, dropping him wheezing. Last warning. As I drove away, blood on my knuckles, rain sheeting the windshield. I felt the rush, power. After years of powerlessness. But victory? Fleeting. Hospital update from Vasquez. Tommy's improving. But he's asking questions. About you and Sarah. Careful. Harlan. Careful. Too late for that. The punch from Mark left a shiner blooming purple under my eye. A badge of the brawl that felt more cathartic than any therapy session. I iced it in my apartment. Microwave burrito steaming on the counter. Laptop open to news tabs. Apex Capital stock dipping on rumors of irregularity. Good. Let the rats scatter. But sleep evaded. Ghosts parading misses. Ramirez's face. Slack in death. Tommy's grin. Fading. Sarah's touch. Electric then poisonous. By midnight, I was pacing, the floorboards creaking like old bones. Revenge wasn't a checklist, it was a hydra. Cut one head. Two grew. Now Mark was cornered. But he'd lash out.
Wild.
Dawn brought a call from Tommy, voice stronger, laced with urgency. Jack. Get here. Now. I arrived disheveled, badge clipped crooked. He was sitting up, breakfast tray shoved aside, eyes fever bright. What the hell happened to your face? Slipped on a banana peel. Sarcasm my shield. What's up? Sarah visited. Alone. Said Mark's cracking, threatening divorce. Exposure. And you. She said you're helping. I perched on the bedrail, weighing lies. Maybe. Guy's a prick. Tommy's laugh was hollow. Prick who saved my ass. After the firm found out about the books, he funneled funds to plug holes. In exchange for favors. Favors like pimping your sister-in-law? Icks. He corrected, then sighed. Yeah. Consults turned dirty. But it kept me afloat. Kept us all. Us. The web tightened. And the heart attack? Stress from owing the devil. Partly. He rubbed his chest. Over the scar. But mostly guilt. Over you. The cover-up. I planted that vial. Jack. To protect her. Thought you'd bounce back. Law school or something. I stood, rage coiling. Bounce back? I lost everything. I know. Tears welled. Unmanly in the morning light. Forgive me? Please. Brotherly love warred with the void. I clapped his shoulder. Hard. Working on it. Rest. I'll handle Mark. Outside. Vasquez intercepted. Eyebrow arched at my bruise. Fight club after hours? Domestic dispute. Half-truth. Listen. Elena, Tommy's tangled in finance shit. Embezzlement. Could use a friend if it blows. She frowned, compassionate but cautious. I'm a doc, not a fixer.
But.
Yeah. For him. Her kindness stung, rare in this meat grinder of a world. As she walked away, hips swaying with purpose, I wondered, ally or complication? Lunch was a stakeout. Apex's glass tower in the loop, me in the Civic across from the lobby, binoculars from a pawn shop fogging with breath. Mark emerged at 1:15, suit rumpled, barking into his phone. He hailed a cab, heading north, toward the Gold Coast. Sarah's turf?
No.
Veered east to the lakefront. I followed, traffic a snarl of horns and exhaust, pulse syncing with the wipers as drizzle picked up. He stopped at a harborside bar. The Cusp, upscale dive for yuppies nursing martinis and midlife crises. I parked blocks away, hood up, slipping in the side door. Mark was at a corner table, nursing scotch. Opposite a suit I recognized from Apex's board photo. Victor Lang, a CFO. Silver fox with a rep for hostile takeovers. Their heads bent close, voices low over the jazz croon. But Harlan's got the files, Mark hissed. And Sarah's flipping. We need to bury them, all three.
Lang steepled fingers.
Cold as a cadaver.
How?
Feds are circling. Leak the med school dirt, frame it as pattern. Unstable Harlan. Desperate brother. Complicit wife. Wife. Not ex. Mark's slip, still possessive. And Tommy? Mark pressed. Collateral. Cut him loose. Blame the trades on him solo. My blood iced. Schemers. Flipping loyalties like cards. I edged closer. Phone recording under the bar lip.
Lang slid an envelope.
Payment for cleanup. Disappear after. Mark pocketed it, nodding. Done. I backed out. Heart hammering. Rain soaking through. Proof irrefutable. But exposing Lang meant Apex implosion. Tommy's job vaporized, even if it cleared him partially. Dilemma gnawed as I drove to Sarah's. She answered the door in sweats. Hair tousled. 2 kids, a boy 5, girl 3, peeking from the kitchen, sticky with paint. Jack? What? Inside. I brushed past, dripping on her hardwood. Mark's plotting with Lang. Framing us all, cutting Tommy adrift, her face crumpled, ushering kids to the playroom with a nanny cam glance. I knew he was dirty, but this. Envelope exchange. Recorded. I played the clip, her eyes widening at the betrayal.
God.
He's ending it, all of it. She sank onto the couch, head in hands. What now?
Now?
We fight fire with fire. I paced her living room. Family photos mocking from mantles. Her. Mark. Kids at Disney. Tommy at a barbecue. Leak to the Trib. But Tommy walks free. She looked up, calculating. And my career? The old scandal resurfaces. Collateral.
Echoing Lang.
I stopped.
Guilty.
We protect the innocent. Kids are innocent. Her voice broke. But so were we. Once. The pull again. Old chemistry sparking in the air. Thick as humidity.
You set beside her.
Too close. Her scent, lavender and hospital soap, stirring ghosts. We weren't innocent. We chose wrong. She turned, eyes searching. Then choose right now. her hand on mine.
Tentative.
I pulled away.
Standing. Not like that.
Business. Hurt flashed. Then resolve.
Fine.
Send the files. I'll lawyer up. I left her there. Domestic bliss fracturing. Rain pooling on the welcome mat. Back at the hospital. Tommy napped. Vasquez charting nearby. She glanced up, sensing storm clouds. Trouble. Always. I confessed bits, the plot, the frame. Omitted Sarah's touch. She whistled low. White-collar wolves. Need backup. Got any mob ties? Joke. But her laugh warmed. Only the Irish kind. My uncle's a PI in Bridgeport. Discreet. Hook me up. Alliance solidified. Night fell. City lights twinkling like distant fires. I emailed the recording to a burner trib address. Tip line hot. Subject. Apex implosion from the inside. Sleep came fitful. Dreams of hearts exploding like grenades. Morning headlines would break it wide. But at 3 a.m., my phone shattered peace, Mark. You think you're smart? Check your brother's chart. I bolted upright, dread coiling. Drove, white-knuckled to mercy, badge beeping me through silent halls. Tommy's room, empty. Bed stripped, monitors dark.
Gone.
Nurse at station.
Bileri, discharge ama.
Against medical advice. 2 hours ago. With who? Blonde woman. Said she was fiancé. Sarah? No, her hair was blonde.
But.
Mark's laugh echoed in memory. The flip. They'd taken him. Leverage. Panic surged. Revenge's jaws snapped shut. The hospital corridor stretched infinite. Fluorescent hell looping as I badgered the night shift. Security footage. Discharge logs. Anything. The fiancé. Blonde. Mid-30s. Coach bag. Had signed as Emily Carter. Fake as a $3 bill. Tommy. Groggy from meds. Hadn't questioned. Just signed the AMA form with a shaky scrawl and shuffled out on her arm. Vasquez arrived at dawn. Hair sleep must. Fury etching lines around her mouth. This is on me. Should have flagged his chart for holds. Mark, I growled, replaying the grainy lobby cam on her tablet, blonde leading Tommy to a black SUV. Plates blurred by rain. His hire. Cleanup crew. She nodded.
Grim.
Called my uncle, Pat. Ex-cop. Now private eye. He's tracing the plates. Pat Riley, Irish through and through. Voice like gravel in a blender when he called back. SUV registered to a Shell Corp in Delaware. Apex affiliate. They're holed up at a safe house in Evanston. Old frat house turned rental. Goin' soft.
Kid. Go en route.
But traffic's a bitch.
Soft. Right.
I grabbed a go bag from my apartment, clothes. The spare 8B pen paranoia pays. A tire iron for encouragement, and hit the road north. I-90 for a river of brake lights under sodium glow. Evanston, northwestern shadow. Lakefront mansions hiding sins in basements. The address was a crumbling Victorian off Sheridan Road. Porch sagging like a drunk's grin. SUV parked curbside. Engine cooling. Lights flickered inside. Silhouettes dancing. Tommy? Guards? I circled the block.
Alekat silent.
Slipping through a backyard thick with overgrown hydrangeas. Back door ajar, sloppy. Inside, kitchen reeking of takeout lo mein. Cards scattered on a table. Two goons, ex-military types, buzz cuts and shoulder holsters, arguing over poker hands. The boss says hold the kid till Harlan blinks. One grunted. Tattooed knuckles wrapping the table. Harlan's a ghost. And the doc, she's lawyered up. I ghosted closer. Tire iron heavy in hand. First guy never saw it, cracked to the temple. Down like a sack. Second spun. Drawing. But I was faster, swing low. Kneecapping. Then elbow to throat. Gurgle. Slump. Zip ties from the junk drawer. Gags with dish towels. Clean. Almost surgical. Upstairs. Creaks and murmurs. I ascended. Stairs groaning betrayal. Heart thundering. Master bedroom. Tommy bound to a chair. Wrists raw. Face swollen from a fresh bruise. Blonde Emily paced. Phone to ear. Yes. Mr.
Lang.
He's secure. Harlan's file sent.
Lang.
The CFO. Pulling strings. Tommy's eyes widened at me. Jack. Sure. I crept in. Iron raised. Emily turned. Shrieked too late. I lunged, tackling her to the carpet. Phone skittering. She fought dirty, nails raking. Knee to groin, but I pinned, zip-tying her flailing arms. Easy. Tiger, I hissed, hauling her up. Where's Mark?
Lang.
Fuck you, she spat. Mascara rivers. They're at the office. Endgame. Endgame. I untied Tommy, supporting his wobble. Can you walk? Barely. He leaned heavy, breath ragged.
Chest.
Tight. Panic. Post-stunt stress. Arrhythmia risk. Breathe slow. We're out. We stumbled down. Me half carrying him. Emily dragged behind. Outside. Sirens wailed distant. Pat's cops. I shoved her into the SUV's trunk. Harsh. But necessary, and hotwired the beast YouTube tutorials pay off. Peeling out as blues flashed in the rearview. Tommy gasped beside me, clutching his side. Jack. Hurting. Hold on. I floored it south. Hospital bound. One hand on the wheel, other fumbling for the AP pen. But his color drained, eyes glazing.
No. Not now.
Talk to me.
Bro.
Remember the lake? Ghost stories. He mumbled. Incoherent. Pulse under my fingers, thready, erratic.
Fuck.
I veered onto the shoulder. Hazards flashing. Yanking the pen. Neck vein. Plunge, prayer more than precision. He arched, gasped, then slumped. Monitor?
None.
Just me, willing his chest to rise. Seconds stretched eternal. Then cough.
Wheeze. Jesus.
What was that? Saved your ass. Again. Relief crashed. Tears blurring the road. Sirens caught as blocks for mercy, cops swarming. Emily hauled cursing from the trunk. Vasquez met the gurney, barking orders, me trailing bloody-handed. Stable. Again. But the war raged. Interrogation room at Loop Precinct. Me. Lawyered by Sarah's firm, Irony. Spilling on Apex. Lang arrested at dawn. Boardroom raid televised, suits and cuffs. Headlines screaming, finance empire crumbles. Mark fled to O'Hare. Passport in hand. But Pat's neck closed, nabbed at security. Envelope of cash tumbling like confetti. Sarah arrived at the hospital that afternoon, kids in tow, hugging Tommy fierce. To me, you did it. Cleared. Not yet. I nodded to Vasquez. Hovering. Board next. My name. She nodded.
Fierce.
On it. But as celebrations hummed, Tommy joking, kids coloring on his tray, Mark's mugshot hit my feed. Eyes. Not defeated, but scheming. A text from burner. Twist.
Harlan.
Check email. I did. In the cafeteria. Fork paused mid-bite. Attachment. Video. Grainy. Cook County, 2014. Not the code after.
Me.
Drunk on grief. Sarah in my arms. Tommy filming. Say it for the camera, he slurs. You did it. The dosage. Your fault. Deep fake? No, real.
Ide confessar.
Manipulated. To protect them still. The betrayal's abyss. They'd recorded my breakdown. Insurance policy. Mark's note. Drop charges. Or this leaks. You're the killer. Polarization hit. Expose. And I'm a villain, unstable ex. Admitting guilt. Barry. And Apex walks. Tommy jailed. No sides clean. Readers, hell. Me divided. I deleted. Hands shaking.
Chose.
The email burned in my gut like bad takeout. Mark's digital venom, a final flip of the knife. Video looped silent on my phone. My face. Younger. Shattered. Slurring admissions under fluorescent flicker. I overrode the dose. My call.
God.
Elena. I'm sorry. Cut to Sarah's hand on my shoulder. Tommy's off-screen chuckle. Timestamp. Hours after Ramirez flatlined. They'd baited me. Recorded the breakdown. Filed it away like a loaded gun.
Why?
Extra layer of deniability. If the tampering surfaced, my confession sealed it, me as lone wolf. Them clean. I pocketed the phone, appetite gone, and wandered the hospital halls, echoes of footsteps my only company. Vasquez's consult room glowed inviting, her silhouette bent over charts. I knocked, entering at her. Yeah. She looked up, concern etching. Ghosts again.
Worse.
Zombies. I collapsed into a chair, spilling the video. The threat. Her face hardened, not shock, resignation. The med world's weary badge. Bastards, she muttered, closing her laptop. Classic triangulation. You take the fall. They hold the real. But Jack, it's inadmissible.
Drunk.
Coerced. Years old. Public opinion? I countered. Trib runs it. I'm the med school murderer. Tommy's savior turns monster. She leaned forward, elbows on desk, eyes locked. Then control the narrative. Leak it yourself, contextualized. With the Apex files. Show the pattern, manipulation, from med school to millions. Brilliant. Risky. Polarizing as hell, no heroes. Just survivors clawing from the muck. Tommy? I asked. His call. But he loves you. That counts. I nodded. Throat tight. Back in his room. Kids gone. Sarah pacing like a caged lab rat. Tommy watched from bed. Monitors beeping steady counterpoint. Mark sent this, I said, playing the clip. Gasp synced, Sarah's hand to mouth. Tommy's color draining.
I
Forgot, he whispered. Thought it was gone. Burned the drive. Sarah whirled on him. Forgot? It destroyed Jack. Destroyed us all, he shot back, voice cracking. I did it for you, for us. Room temperature plummeted. Old fissures erupting. I stood between. Referee in a blood feud.
Enough.
Mark's using it to skate. We release everything. Video. Ledgers. The works. Full disclosure. Sarah's eyes blazed. My license. Gone anyway if he leaks piecemeal. Cold logic. This way, we frame it, victims of a system that chews and spits. Tommy nodded slow. Do it. For Elena Ramirez. For you, Jack. Sarah deflated.
Nodding. Okay.
But together. We huddled then. Unlikely cabal. Exes. Brother. Plotting apocalypse. Drafted the package. Files zipped. Narrative letter. From the fall guy. A decade of deception in medicine and money. Sent to Trib. Sometimes. Even 60 minutes tip line. CC. Illinois Med Board.
SSC.
By evening. Leak sprouted. Apex scandal deepens. Med malpractice ties? Reporters swarmed Mercy. Badges flashing like paparazzi at a crash. Vasquez fielded them. Stonewalling. Patient privacy. But whispers spread. Nurses gossiping. Admins scrambling. Night brought the storm. Mark's arraignment. Bail denied. His lawyer spinning tales of framed innocence. But our bomb dropped pre-dawn front page splash. Betrayed in blue. Ex-med students expose rocks Chicago elite. Headline screamed. Falsified death. Embezzled empire. Public cleaved. Justice for Ramirez trending with free Tommy. Forums ablaze. Harlan hero or homewrecker? Klein complicit or coerced? Polarization peaked. Cable news panels debating. Shrinks diagnosing my revenge complex. Finance bros defending Apex as cutthroat but clean. Tommy's room became bunker. Visitors barred. Us glued to coverage. Sarah fielded calls. Board suspension pending review. But cooperation noted.
Me?
Black mark lifting. Whispers of reinstatement exams. But the twist nod. Mark silence. No counterpunch.
Too quiet.
Pat called noon. Birdie singing. Mark cut a deal, flipping on Lang for reduced time. But he named you. Instigator. Fed sniffing. Instigator. The Revenger. Crown villain. Evening devolved. Tommy crashing again. Stress-induced a fib. Vasquez shocking him back. Me and Scrubs assisting. Hands steady as fate. Clear. He stabilized. But the room reeked of finality. Sarah and I stepped out. Hauled him. Her hand brushing mine. Accidental? Electric. We did it, she whispered. But at what cost? Everything, I said. Worth it. Her smile. Bittersweet. Ask me in a year. Kiss then impulse. Closure, soft. Tasting of salt and what-ifs. Pulled back. Awkward laughs. Go home, I said. Kids need you. You too. She left. Heels clicking fade. Alone with Tommy. Post-crash pallor. He gripped my arm. Proud.
Bro. But.
The video. People think. Let em. Truth's messier. Night deepened. City humming unrest. My phone. Anonymous vid reply. Mark. Orange jumpsuit stark. Harlan's right. I twisted him all. But he twisted himself, chose the fall. Hero or fool? Debate fuel. Sides blurred. Was I avenger or architect of ruin? Twist landed pre-dawn. Board email. Not exoneration, investigation. New evidence suggests shared culpability. Hearing scheduled.
Shared.
Us three. Eternally linked. Revenge's Pyrrhic crown. Thorns all around. Weeks blurred into a gray smear. Chicago autumn crisp with falling leaves and falling fortunes. Apex crumbled. Lang indicted. Assets frozen. Tommy's charges reduced to misdemeanor restitution on Sarah's testimony and my files. He rehabbed at Mercy. Vasquez's hawk eye ensuring no relapses. Then discharged to a halfway house in Logan Square, clean slate. Sorta. With a barista gig at a Southport coffee joint. Low stress. He joked over takeout pho one night. Our first real meal as equals. And tips beat trading tips. I grunted. Slurping broth. Beats jail. Sarah fared middling. Suspension lifted probationary. Demoted to clinic hours in Englewood, real medicine. No gloss. She texted sporadically. Kids' soccer scores. Thinking of you that skirted lines. We met once. Neutral ground. A park in Lincoln Park. Dogs romping. Her in jeans. Me nursing the fading shiner. Talked weather. Not wreckage. Handshake at end. Lingering. But me? The fallout sigh. Med board hearing loomed. A circus of suits and subpoenas in a downtown conference room smelling of stale coffee and schadenfreude. I suited up, thrift store Brooks Brothers. Tie knotted crooked, facing the panel, stone-faced admins. A shrink with a clipboard. Vasquez as character witness. Mr. Harlan, the chairwoman intoned. Glasses perched like a judge's gavel. Your actions, heroic in the ER. Vigilante elsewhere. Complicate reinstatement. I leaned into the mic. Voice steady. Complicated's my middle name. I took a fall for love and loyalty. Now, I stand for truth. Testimony flowed. Vasquez praising my saves. Tommy via video affirming brotherhood. Even Pat Riley gruff on the rescue. But the video, my slurred confession, played. Panel murmuring. Shrink droned. Signs of unresolved trauma. Potential for ethical lapses. Counter, Sarah's affidavit. Detailing coercion. Mark's web. Jack protected us. We failed him. Verdict, probationary reentry. Retake boards. Supervised rotations. No full MD. But a foot in the door. The failed pre-med. Resurrected. Public? Frenzy. Op-ed split. Vigilante justice in Scrubs versus. Redemption arc for the betrayed. Protests outside Rush. Students chanting my name. Pickets decrying cover-ups. I dodged interviews. But one viral clip. Me. Post-hearing. To a reporter's mic. Revenge?
Nah.
Accountability. Big difference. Mark's trial was the real circus. Federal courtroom. Packed gallery. He took the stand. Polished. Pinning tails on donkeys. Lang the mastermind. Me the loose cannon. But cross-exam shredded him. Our recordings. His envelope deals. Sentenced. 15 years. White-collar purgatory in Club Fed. His last glance from the dock. Not hate.
Pity.
You won.
Harlan.
But at what price? Price.
Yeah.
Tommy's health scarred. Sarah's marriage ashes. Divorce papers filed pre-plea. My trust pulverized. Vasquez? We grabbed beers post-verdict. Her laugh thawing ice. Date, she teased. Maybe, I said. Progress. Twist finale. Weeks later. Anonymized package at my door, USB. No note. Footage, Mark's cell. Him dictating to a guard. Tell Harlan. The real secret? Ramirez's death saved lives. Her error, data flagged a batch recall, thousands spared. We covered for the greater good. Heroic cover-up? Or self-serving spin? Docs attached. Internal memos. Redacted. Hinting truth. Debatable. Did our betrayal birth benevolence? Or was it always rot? I burned the USB. Ashes scattering on pills and winds. Truth subjective. Revenge's echo. Now, I study nights. Boards looming. Tommy crashing couches. Sarah co-parenting from afar. Mercy general calls occasional, consults. Shadows. Vasquez's number in my speed dial. They called me failed once.
Now?
I'm the one they call when hearts falter. But in quiet moments, staring at the lake's black mirror, I wonder, right or wrong, savior or sinner, you decide. The end? Open. Like a chest cavity exposed, beating, unresolved.